one person can make all the difference. One person really can let people know. One person can bring transparency to big tech.
Last year, an individual from Facebook approached us and gave us documents inside the company appearing to show how Facebook deboosts content for political reasons. Facebook was forced to respond. Her story inspired many like her to come forward. And now another insider has bravely stepped forward, leaking documents that show how big tech appears to have thrown its hat into the political debate. Now, the documents we've obtained raise serious questions about whether these companies are neutral platforms or publishers with an editorial agenda. Thanks.
I work at Pinterest, and we're talking about some of the documents that I uncovered that people need to know about inside Pinterest.
Like Facebook and Twitter, Pinterest is another social media company where millions of users share pictures on their profiles. Just back in April, Pinterest joined its larger contemporaries on the stock market with an IPO evaluation of $12.7 billion. A Pinterest insider shed light on some activities that shareholders may want to know about. So, what are we looking at here? It seems to be a bunch of XXX and porn websites, and then there appears to be the live action website. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at pins with domains that are blocked. Any domain on the porn block list, you can't make a pin like that. And I happened to discover this because of a Slack thread talking about pro-life content, and somebody happened to notice that liveaction.org was blocked. And so I was pretty surprised, and I went to our porn domain block list, and then sure enough, I found Live Action on there.
Live Action is a group founded by Lila Rose that tries to educate people about the pro-life movement. Many of their projects focus on detailing medical procedures used by abortion providers. The documents the Pinterest insider gave us appear to show code, guidelines, and the actual employees making censorship decisions, including specific actions taken against Live Action. Why do you think they're targeting Live Action?
I think because Live Action is effective, and I think they're seeing increased pressure in the abortion debate.
What is happening to liveaction.org on Pinterest?
Liveaction.org was added to a porn block list. That means that if you try to make a pin that links to liveaction.org, you won't be allowed to. The pin won't be created.
And who is Megan McClellan?
Megan works on the trust and safety team and on government operations, and she was the one who added liveaction.org to the porn domain block list. And it obviously is not porn, and I find it very concerning that it was added to a porn list, which seems like an effort to hide the fact that Live Action is being blocked. Why not just add it to like the sensitive terms list under hate speech if you really think it's hate speech? But instead, you're adding it to a porn list to hide what it is.
Explain the bottom right half of the page here. When did they start targeting Live Action?
This commit that added liveaction.org to the porn list was in February of 2019.
It would seem from that Pinterest knows that Live Action is not a porn site. Curiously, other non-pornographic links on that list include conservative websites like PJ Media. So Jeanette Germay, on what appears to be a Slack channel, says, "I don't think it should be removed, but thinks this warrants a further discussion because we're currently not removing pro-life, pro-choice content." What is she saying there?
This was a surprise to her that this showed up on a porn list, which I think is surprising to most people. And then she had a query about, it appears to be a user question about removing it from a block list. All the user knows is that you can't make a pin with liveaction.org. And then she decides to do nothing about it. She doesn't remove it.
Nothing was happened.
And as far as I know, she didn't investigate it any further.
So we wanted to try this for ourselves. We have 3 links, one from Project Veritas, one from Vox, and one from Live Action. We copy and paste a link to a Project Veritas story, throw it in the URL, destination link, hit publish, and it seems to create a pin. Works just perfectly. Now let's try it with another website, like Vox. Copy and paste the Vox URL into the pin, destination link, hit publish, and it works just fine. Now we're going to try it with the Live Action URL, the moment of truth. But we're going to copy and paste the Live Action URL to the destination link and hit publish. But this time, we get this strange message. Sorry, your request could not be completed after we paste the URL into the pin. And in case you just think this is an anomaly, that just is not the case according to our insider. The Live Action URL has been put onto Pinterest's porn domain block list. We spoke to Live Action to see what they thought about being listed as a pornographic website. They were not happy about it. Another slide from Pinterest's Hate Speech Training Manual sheds light on the exercise of judgment by Pinterest in evaluating when and how to hide and remove certain types of content. Now, one of the documents you uncovered and sent to Project Veritas was thousands of pages long, and it had a series of syllables and numbers. What is that document?
That's our sensitive terms list, the STL. It contains terms that employees have to manually enter. They're not created by machines or anything. And it contains offensive terms, porn terms, anything that we don't want to show up on search or home feed or in people's recommendations.
Was there anything in that sensitive terms list that didn't seem like it belonged there?
There are a lot of terms about Christians, Bible verses, that really don't seem like offensive terms to most people.
So we have Pinterest open right now, and I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to type in the word Muslim, and what we see happen on the screen is it separates it into 2 words. Muslim fashion, Muslim quotes, Muslim brides, Muslim memes, Muslim wedding. This is called autocomplete. Mm-hmm. So Pinterest appears to be giving you different options. I'll do it again for the word Jewish. I'll type in the search Jewish art, Jewish wedding, Jewish recipes, wedding cakes. But then I type in the word Christian, and something interesting happens. What is going on here?
Christians being blocked from autocomplete. So you're seeing the missing space right there. That means that people have cleverly made pins with the term Christian quotes as one word, but normal pins with a Christian quotes as 2 words are being blocked from autocomplete here.
And is this something to do with the severity levels?
It is, and it's very interesting that even though Bible verses and Christian terms are typically labeled as brand unsafe, they're also being blocked from autocomplete.
And for them to be blocked on autocomplete, I mean, they're not just brand unsafe, but there's something else going on behind the scenes?
That typically means they're considered sensitive beyond brand unsafe, is in a severity level 1.
So now we're going from brand unsafe to sensitive 1, and some of the other words that are on this severity level is, and again, I'm just reading the words, shit sandwich, cocaine, one night stand, Paris attack, and quote, wetback, unquote.
Mm-hmm. And those are now being compared to Christian quotes.
Wow. Let's say it's Easter weekend and I'm looking for my favorite Bible verse to put in my grandmother's Hallmark card. I go to my favorite website, Pinterest.com, where I typically search for office decor for Project Veritas or the sort of pillows I want on my sailboat. I type in Bible verse, V-E-R-S, and it actually shows me verses. I manually complete the rest of the word, and then it refuses to autocomplete, showing Bible versus inspirational, a nonsensical word. Typically, when something refuses to autocomplete, it means that it's a term that's never searched for. But in this case, that's obviously not true. The Pinterest insider also saw how, quote, white supremacist, unquote, content, like Ben Shapiro's commentary, for instance, goes from identified to censored. So we actually have an image from this, I guess this is a Slack thread that you've uncovered, right?
It is.
And this is if opinion on a private Slack board. What do you say to that?
So this was actually in a war room where policymakers were making decisions about content, and there was follow-up action made to these posts, and she even references the action in that thread. And this is also coming from someone who works on public policy and on the social impact team.
3 days after Ozoma's message on Slack, Pinterest took action against Ben Shapiro's commentary about Islam, adding, quote, Ben Shapiro Muslim and, quote, Ben Shapiro Islam to the sensitive terms list, or STL. The terms are marked as Advisory 6, Severity 1, meaning the material was reported and sensitive. And you mentioned that they do, in fact, take action above and beyond just talking about him. What sort of actions do they take on Shapiro content that you've seen?
Yes. So they made an advisory document about this type of content, and then this advisory content ended up in our sensitive terms list, which is content that has to be manually entered that then affects all of the content that comes into home feed, search, people's recommendations, etc.
What else can Pinterest do to pins and accounts they want to censor? The insider explains.
There's the typical remove of where somebody will have a pin that violates policy and somebody will remove it, and then the user will get an email that this was removed. And then sometimes you remove a board completely. And then there's also hiding content, which means that it won't show up in your home feed on the first screen that you come to Pinterest at, and it won't show up in search, but you'll still be able to link directly to the pin. And then there's silent removing, which means that your pin will be removed, you won't be able to see it, nobody will be able to see it, you won't be able to link it to anybody, but you actually won't get a notification. You won't get an email that your pin was removed or your board was removed or any of the content you've made was removed.
Do they want people to know that their thing is being silently dealt with? And why won't they tell people that it's occurring to them?
So the original intention behind having a silent remove feature is to prevent spam or porn. So like if a porn site is uploading stuff, we want to make sure that they're not aware that we know about them. But then when it comes to hate speech, the same thing applies. We don't want them to know that their content's being removed, especially if they're just like a social media manager uploading content there. They're not checking every board to make sure all the pins are still there. And so they just won't know that the content's been missing.
Another document Project Veritas obtained gives us some insight into Pinterest's potential political mindset. Pinterest's hate speech training manual says they, quote, hide content diminishing the beliefs, institutions, and movements held sacred by others, unquote. One of these institutions appears to be Planned Parenthood. So now we're talking about this AC privileged conspiracy document. What is this?
This is a document that is a partial list of conspiracies, what we recognize to be conspiracies that we need to remove from Pinterest.
And some of the things on this document are not necessarily a conspiracy. Like what?
Well, the biggest thing that stood out to me was David Daleidon's videos undercover about Planned Parenthood selling baby parts.
So what does Pinterest do to pins about the subject matter on this document, including David Daleidon's body parts undercover investigation?
We'll remove most conspiracies. There's a small subset of conspiracies that we consider not harmful, and that includes flat earthers, but most conspiracies like medical misinformation or like David's videos we consider that to be active harm to users in the real world, so we do remove those pins.
So Pinterest considers the videotapes of Planned Parenthood workers talking to be on the same page as 9/11 being an inside job, flat Earth?
They consider it to be worse than flat Earth because, for example, flat Earth is considered to be a mostly harmless conspiracy. So when we come across it, we sometimes just ignore it or hide it rather than absolutely removing it. But conspiracies that we consider to be harmful to people in the real world will remove.
Harmful because it's true.
Yes.
So why are you doing this?
I think when public policies don't match with how social media companies are actually implementing them, people have a right to know. People have a right to that transparency. And the thing is, one person can make all the difference. One person really can let people know. One person can bring transparency to big tech.
Obviously, I understand as a journalist why you're protecting your identity, but why not go full stop and just come right out and reveal yourself completely?
The biggest thing is that to live in San Francisco, one is literally physical safety, and then two is to live in San Francisco, I need a job.
Mm-hmm. And what do you hope the outcome will be from the information that you've brought to the public?
I think that people need to take a much more critical eye to the social media that they're using and to hold them accountable. And I also hope that people inside these big tech companies who know what's going on, who know when they're not being transparent, will come forward and let the public know what's going on inside them.
For those of the people out there watching this who themselves are on the inside of these companies, who may be witness to the sort of things that you've been witness to, what is your message to those people who are in your circumstances in Pinterest and other companies like it?
You can make all the difference. It just takes one person. And you have the information in there, and what might seem normal within big tech is definitely not normal in the real world. And it doesn't take much. You can come forward and bring the light to what's going on in the implementation of social media giants.
We reached out to Pinterest for comment on this story on Monday morning. Pinterest changed the error message that pops up after you try to link to liveaction.org. Whereas the old message said, quote, "Sorry, your request could not be completed," the new message says, quote, "Sorry, we blocked this link because it may lead to inappropriate content." At the time of this production, we didn't receive a response. What we did notice is that literally hours before we were to publish the story, Pinterest changed course. Live Action is no longer blacklisted. Sometimes it takes a little sunlight for people to do the right thing. Thanks to the insiders who reached out to us with their stories. We know where big tech companies really stand on the issues. Remember, it takes a lot of courage to risk everything and actually step into the arena to make an impact. As journalists, we at Project Veritas are very grateful for what they do. If you work at one of these big social media companies, or you work in government, or you work for a union, we'd love to hear from you. But you have to be brave. Maybe even wear a camera. You can find out how to contact us securely at projectveritas.com/brave. In our world of big names, curiously, our true heroes tend to be anonymous. The teacher, the nurse, the mother, the honest cop, the hard worker at lonely, underpaid, unglamorous, unpublicized jobs. These can remain heroes precisely because they remain unsung.
Be a catalyst for change. Be brave. Do something.